My name is Sam. I make music under the name Checkpoint, and this is the second month check-in thing, review, whatever, for the Song a Week challenge project, whatever you want to call it. So we're 8 songs in, 2 months in. I released the last song this past weekend, so I'm a little behind on this video again. But I took notes this time, so I have a little bit more to say, or hopefully I won't forget anything important as I go over the tracks. Yeah, let's just get started. So track 5, called Unsure. This one actually started off completely differently. I was going for a sort of like jazz thing, and I had a Rhodes keyboard that I was originally working with, and I hated it. I didn't know what to do, and it was getting later into the week, and I was getting a little worried that I wasn't going to have something that I cared for at all. But I kept just kind of churning away at it and trying to like add new elements, and I ended up adding that guitar line that's very prominent in the piece. And once I heard that, I knew like that's where I wanted the song to go. That's what I liked. I really, really liked that part. So I ended up pitching basically everything else that I had and kind of starting over with that as the starting point, and it resulted in a song that I really like. I was really happy with how kind of that process went from like a little bit of worry and stuff that I don't know I just wasn't happy with into something that I was really happy with. So I guess there's a lesson in there of you can always find a good idea out of a bad idea, even if when you're done the original idea is just nowhere to be found anymore, even if that gets pitched, and not being afraid to like pitch parts that you spent a lot of time on, because I'd spent quite a bit of time at the beginning half of the week. I wrote most of the song on Saturday, and then had to finish it up Saturday night because of getting rid of stuff. But it ended up working out really well. The audio clip in the background, it's kind of faint, but I'd recorded a little bit of me and my sister when we were hiking in Oregon, and I just threw it in there. I did almost no like processing on the audio, so you hear me say like, I don't know, I'm thinking about it because we're talking about like walking up to the beach or something, and that's where I got the name Unsure. And then the synth lead in the second half of the song uses that like musical cipher translation tool thing that I made a couple weeks ago, and it spells out unsure. So I thought that was kind of a fun little Easter egg. Track number 6, Nightfall. My mom sent me a audio file, like a 30-minute audio file of the bugs at my parents' house. Like she recorded at night or at dusk or something, and it was just so nice. It was so peaceful. So I knew I wanted to build an acoustic song around it. And yeah, so I did that, and I recorded the melody line and the I guess the harmony, the like arpeggio stuff. I recorded those parts on a ukulele, a banjo, and a guitar. So this ended up being one of the most like difficult and time-consuming tracks. Not difficult, but time-consuming tracks, because I recorded each part. So every instrument has 2 tracks, and each of those tracks, because I double track it, has 2 tracks. So it ended up being like 12 or 16 separate tracks that I spent hours like recording one night, and then I had to go through and like mix and EQ, and that was I was really happy with the result. I was really happy with the result. That I'm very happy with that song, but that was quite a bit quite time consuming, and that one also uses that translation tool, and that's why the melody is kind of weird and feels a little, I don't know, off kilter at parts maybe. I like the way it's turned out, but it definitely has a weirder feel. It feels like it kind of feels like talking. I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't feel like it, like you would think notes resolve to other notes and then they kind of don't, and that's because it's like denoting a letter. So I couldn't really change it. So I tried to make it as musical as I could, and I kind of like that. It kind of feels a little bit more natural, I suppose. But yeah, it says stuff, and the like big build up at the one that's at the beginning and the end just says bugs, bugs, bugs or something. It was a lot of fun. That also ate up a lot of time that week, was like writing out a phrase and then translating it, and then having to use that melody line in the song. But really fun. I was so happy with how that turned out. And then number 7, Midnight, is basically like an ambient remix of Nightfall. Uh, it's I took the like main, I guess, ambience that exists in the song is a like 40 times stretched version of Midnight or of Nightfall rather. And then I just took different parts of the song and kind of like built out a bit of a structure. And then the kind of like weird jumping bass line thing synth that's in Midnight is actually that same time stretch part pitch shifted down an octave, and then I had it put on a sampler and had like set MIDI notes to like randomly pick parts of the sample. So it's like somewhat random generative. Like every time I'd export it, it would sound a little different. And I was so happy with that. I really want to delve into more like kind of random generative sort of music, ambient stuff. But that one was just so fun to kind of take all the parts, which I like to do, kind of remix previous songs because it's just a good place to start. You have a lot of tools that you've already made that sound good. But taking basically a completed song and like extracting all the components and trying to make it something completely different. So adding in the like guitar arpeggio and the ukulele, but not all the other riffs, just a simple arpeggio and having it sort of like fade in and out. I was really happy with that. I love ambient music, and I feel like I haven't explored like that level of ambient music that much. So I'd like to, like stuff that's really spacey that'll like put you to sleep or whatever. It's fun. It's fun because it's difficult to make that not boring. And even sometimes, I guess, I mean, it's like a 6-minute track, so I guess it can be kind of boring, but I try to have it like there's always elements fading in, or there's a like a really slight saturation that gets dialed up throughout the song. So if you jump from the beginning to the end, the parts sound like way more like there's more distortion and more like artifacting and stuff, and things like that to keep it fresh for a long period of time without it being like jarring. So that was really fun. And the last one, number 8, which I called 1 through 7, which is such a stupid name, but I was on a time crunch, so that was what I have. The main melody riff line thing is a collection of notes from every other song of the project. So it's like an 8-note pattern, and each note is like, it's like a patchwork melody of pieces from all the other songs, which I knew I wanted to do from the beginning. That was what started the song, was I wanted to kind of have like a big like hurrah, we made it 2 months sort of like little celebration thing. So that kind of was how I got started with that. And I had other sections written, and kind of similarly to number 5, I just pitched them. I kept trying to get them to work and get them to fit in, and it wasn't good. It just wasn't good. At least it wasn't what I wanted. I'm sure somebody could make the argument that everything is like good and worthwhile, and I agree to some extent, but it wasn't what I wanted in the piece. So I ended up pitching that and kind of just trying to fill in the gaps. And it ended up just turning out so well. I really, really like this song. It's the one that I've listened back to the most, I think, of them all so far. I was just so happy with it. The build-up, I've been so obsessed with build-ups, kind of from a bit of the previous point about like ambient, where stuff just like slowly moves and changes and stays interesting. Build-ups are kind of like that on a very like micro scale, or I guess macro scale, because everything's way more intense, but it's a much shorter duration. But I love these like sort of like long builds where there's synths coming in and the drums getting like really distorted, and things getting like wider in the stereo field and stuff, to just really like it's just such like a really nice listening experience. And then the beat switch up to the like house club, or not club, but like house music beat thing. It was like that started as a joke at first. I like took that like uh, drum loop just to kind of pad out the song, just to have a drum loop in the background while I was writing the other parts, and it ended up being funny enough that I wanted to like incorporate it into the song. And I feel like the switch up actually flows better than I thought. Um, so yeah, I had a really really good time with that one. I just like how dense the song was. It reminds me of the first track. I feel like I really nailed that one. Anonymity, in terms of like a lot of little like ear candy stuff to listen to and stuff to hear throughout the track. So I was really happy with that. And I have some other notes on the back. General notes. Uh, I feel like after listening through these, my mixing has improved a lot. That was a skill that I've always been like, it gets the job done for me. And I don't have to pay anyone to do it. But I've never really enjoyed it. It's time consuming. I mean, I used to spend like weeks listening over songs, and that would get so tedious because you'd hear the same song like 50 times, and then you start to lose focus on what is actually happening. And every time I'd listen, I'd hear something else and wish that I had done something else differently. And I didn't like that part of the process. And since I've been doing that, uh, I've been spending like a couple hours max mixing on these tracks, like on Saturday or Friday night or something. And I was like actually really blown away of how happy I am with how they're mixed. Um, I think I'm just getting better at like mixing as I go, because I was trying to figure out where I was saving the time. There's two options, and either I'm just getting better at mixing as I go, which I think is part of it, um, or two, I think I'm just not second guessing myself. I'm not giving myself the time to hear it and find more problems with it, because I have such a limited, like, I don't mix it and then wait and come back later and then check again, which is what I used to do. Like historically, I would always do three passes. I would do three passes of mixing and three passes of mastering. And so in each step, I'd always find something that I'd wish I'd done differently. And because you just hear it, and when you hear it again, you want to hear it differently or whatever, or you find something that you want to emphasize. And I'm not giving myself the time to do that. I'm only listening to it once, so or in one session, um, and I think I've just like nailed what I want my ears to hear at this point. So when I hear it and I get it mixed to that point. Uh, I can just like wipe my hands clean, and then when I come back, it's like exactly what I wanted. So I think that's been great, because that was, like I said, the part of the process that I I disliked the most, and now it's like increasingly becoming less and less work and less time consuming, which is awesome. Um, and this has just been such a fun way to like play around. Like, I wanted it to kind of feel like a sandbox where I can just like jump in each week, and I'll have something that's finished, but it really is just a way that I can like kind of screw around with music and try weird experimental things and write a 6 minute ambient song, and then a song that has a beat switch into like a house track the next week or whatever. And it's been so fun. It's been so much fun. And I think it's actually been some of the best music I've made, which is crazy to think about. That some of the stuff that I find the coolest would be, I guess that makes sense, when you experiment, you find cool things more often than if you don't. So it would make sense that I run into more cool sounding parts. But um, yeah, this project has been so good. I'm going to keep going. At some point, I want to release like a compilation album of like my favorite ones and actually like upload it to Spotify or whatever. But for now, I'm just going to keep releasing a song a week until I can't. Um, and I think that's all I have to say. So I'm going to get out of here and go for a walk. Um, and thanks for watching, and go make stuff. I'll see you next month.